If you are not happy with your job or your MOS in the United States Army, there's the possibility that you could change your MOS, but the key thing there is possibility, not a guarantee. What's up, my friends? U.S. Army veteran Christopher Chaos, and I'm here to educate you about the United States Army, some experiences about the Army from a veteran such as myself. So if that's the type of content you're interested in, hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, send me a case of Rockstars P.O. Box down below, whatever you gotta do, okay? But today, in this video, let's focus on, can I change my MOS? Can I change my job? And how does that work? So the short answer is yes, you can change your job, but there's a lot of other situations to go with that, because while yes, you can change your job, it's actually called reclassing to another MOS. So if you reclass, then you switch your MOS, but there's a lot of factors that go along with that, and you may not qualify for it, and there's also kind of a time frame too. One of the main reasons I kind of wanted to talk about this subject was recently I've had a few individuals that would message me saying that they want to join the Army, but they want this specific MOS, but the recruiter couldn't get that MOS, so they're like, well, I'll just suck it up, take this MOS, and then I'll change MOSs later. I even had one individual that apparently told me that the recruiter told them that, you know, they couldn't get the MOS they wanted, so they're like, oh, just take this MOS, and then once you get to your unit, you can change your MOS and reclassify and all that kind of stuff. Well, that is not true. So I don't know if that individual had the recruiter lie to him, or if maybe they just misunderstood what the recruiter was trying to explain to him. So that is not going to be available. So don't think that you can go and just settle for an MOS, and then as soon as you get into the Army to get your foot in the door, you can just right away change MOSs. No. When you're looking to do something like change your MOS or reclass, that typically isn't available until towards the end of your contract. So if you sign a 4-year contract with the United States Army, after you've done 3 years, or maybe even like 2 and some change or something like that, maybe it's like, you know, you only have, let's say, 18 months left in your contract, 12 months left in your contract, that's when your window of opportunity kind of opens up for that type of situation, because then you're eligible to try to re-enlist or basically renew your contract to stay in the Army longer, and you might have the option to be able to reclass. That factor still depends on things like your ASVAB scores, right? So if you had really crappy ASVAB scores, well, you don't all of a sudden just automatically qualify for it now. They're probably gonna want you to retake the ASVAB, try to improve your scores, and then try to qualify for it, but also availability too. If that is an MOS that is just over strength, then it doesn't matter. You're not gonna be able to get into that MOS if it's over strength. So they're not gonna allow you to go into it. And sometimes rank kind of factors in too. So maybe if at this point you're now an E5, so now you're an NCO, and they don't need any more NCOs because they're over strength on non-commissioned officers, and they only want E4 and below, then they might not wanna take you because you're not in that kind of bracket of what they need to fill into that MOS for needs of the Army. So there are still kind of a lot of things to go along with it. The only way that you can usually reclass early is if you happen to be in an MOS that is over strength. They have too many individuals, maybe they have too many E4 and belows, and they need to get some of those individuals out of that MOS to make room, you know, for other individuals to move into it, whatever the case is, right? So it's over strength, they've got too many soldiers in that MOS. When that happens, which it did happen a few years ago with the cryptographic linguist, and they forced individuals to where they had 2 options. They could either reclass to a different MOS, or they could just get out of the Army early, whichever one they kind of wanted to do. And they were kind of taking volunteers first, and they did get to the point where they were able to fulfill it based on volunteers, rather than having to come to a point where they had to force people to either reclass to something else or get out of the Army because you didn't have a choice. But they had enough people that volunteered to switch over to another MOS or just get out of the Army early that they didn't have to come to that. So that is usually the only time that you can reclass to another MOS early without having to be within sight of a re-enlistment window, is if your MOS became over strength. But that doesn't happen a whole lot. That's not a very often thing that happens. It happens, but it's not like a frequent thing, right? And some of this may work a little bit different on the reserves and National Guard. If you're not familiar with my channel, I'm more of an active duty kind of guy, so what I explain here is active duty type of situations, so it'll vary a little bit. Now, there is more details as far as how it works when we want to change your job, but before we do that, I've got to give a special thanks to the sponsor of this video, which is the Ridge Wallet. The Ridge wallet is this sleek, minimalist type of wallet, so if you're tired of that stupid foldable wallet in your back pocket, you can get something like this that just cuts down on space, and it can hold up to 12 cards with even room for cash on the back with either a money clip or a band. It's even got RFID blocking technology. There's multiple colors that are available on their website, but if you already have a good wallet, maybe you've already got a great Ridge wallet, they also have other amazing products too. They got knives, they got pens, they even got, hell, some awesome backpacks that I really like as well. So there's a lot of range of different items on their website that you can actually check out. And let's say if you do pick up a wallet, they'll actually let you test drive it for 45 days. So if it turns out that the wallet wasn't quite what you thought it was going to be and you don't really like it, well, you can return it, get your money back, and they'll even pay for the shipping for you to send it back to them. A great thing too is when you visit ridge.com/chaosarmy and use the promo code chaosarmy, you can save a little bit of money. You can save 10% by using that code and even get free shipping off of whatever you buy, whether that's a wallet, a backpack, a knife, a pen, whatever you want to get. So head on over to that link. It's down in the description box down below. I highly recommend it. I use mine all of the time. I got rid of that damn foldable wallet and I just carry a Ridge wallet all the time. So check out the link down in the description box. Get yourself a wallet, get yourself a bag, whatever. So now, let's get back into the video. So why would someone want to change their job? Well, maybe it just didn't turn out to be what they wanted it to be. Maybe they had expectations for it to be this type of job and it just didn't turn out to be that way. Or maybe you originally wanted a different MOS and it just wasn't available when you tried to join. So you're like, you know, this one sounds okay. And maybe that one didn't work out the way and you wanted it to work out. And in the back of your mind, you still really wanted that other MOS you originally tried for. And now you're like, hey, let's try to reclass for that. So if it's not a job that's over strength, then you have to wait for that re-enlistment window. So when you're usually like around 1 year left on your contract, whether it's a 3-year, 6-year, 4-year contract, whatever, when you're about 1 year left on your contract, they have kind of like a recruiter that's for soldiers that are already in the Army, and that is your retention NCO. So you have a non-commissioned officer at your unit level that's their job. Their job is to retain soldiers, to try to do whatever they can to keep those soldiers in the Army. So that NCO is going to be probably bugging the hell out of you anyways when it gets to that time frame of towards the end of your contract anyways, but you can go see them and start talking to them and be like, hey, I am interested in staying in the Army if I can change MOSs. Now in some cases, let's say maybe that MOS you want to reclass to is maybe a MOS is under strength. Well, sometimes that can allow you benefits like a bonus, right? Because if they really need people in that MOS, then they might offer you a bonus to reclass to that MOS because they really need soldiers to come into that MOS. But maybe like that MOS was over strength when you try to join, but now it's under strength, or maybe you just didn't qualify for it, but now you've redone the ASAP, now you do qualify for it, all sorts of factors that could come into there. But if that MOS is an under strength one, it may even offer a bonus. So an extra incentive to be able to get the MOS that you want to do and get a little extra cash in your pocket. So that would mean that if it's approved, let's say that everything works out just fine, right? Your retention NCO is like telling you, yes, I can make that happen. You qualify for that. We're gonna go ahead and get that process going. Well, then that means you will still go off to AIT because you have to reclass, so you have to get the training for that MOS. You obviously don't have to go back through basic, right? You don't have to do that, but you will have to go back through AIT for that particular MOS. But it is going to be a different experience than like when you went through AIT the first time. And you may even see some of these individuals like when you're in AIT, people that are prior service that have already had some experience in the Army and they treated differently. For the most part, they won't have to live in the barracks that all the brand new soldiers have to live inside of. They'll probably live somewhere else on base, like some kind of other housing or some kind of, not really housing, like a nice housing, but like more of like a permanent party barracks that are a little bit different, but allows you a lot more freedom. So for those individuals, they won't really have a whole lot of interaction with the drill sergeants. You might see them like doing PT because they will still do PT with everyone. And then while all the new soldiers that are, they're at AIT for the first time, they go to the barracks, and then those permanent party individuals that have had experience in the Army, they go off to these other barracks to get ready and get dressed and then maybe go grab breakfast, whereas those new soldiers have to be marched to the chow hall probably, and then they just have to show up at the designated location for training. So whereas the brand new soldiers are going to be stuck with the drill sergeants, probably being marched over to where the training's at, possibly, depending on sometimes the leadership, if you are someone that's reclassing, they're just going to tell you, hey, just be at this location at 09 or whatever time class starts and be there for class. You also have free time in the evenings, right? You have the brand new soldiers that may be stuck cleaning up the barracks and everything and have to rely on weekend passes to be free. you're treated differently in most cases. So you probably won't be treated that same way. You can probably take off possibly every single weekend if you really want to, just within a certain radius, obviously. And then you have those weekends off to be able to chill out, maybe go to the PX, go hang out, maybe have a few drinks. Maybe they allow you to even have alcohol sometimes during AIT when you're in that situation. Whereas those brand new soldiers that's their first time being there, they're brand new, they're in AIT, they're not gonna get those same kind of relaxation, kind of leniency that you're gonna get. So don't really let that discourage you of being like, oh man, I don't have to go back through AIT again, that sucked. It's gonna be a different experience than it was probably the first time you went through AIT. Now also understand, let's say you're in a situation where you get in the Army as this MOS and you hate it, you don't like it, you wanna reclass, and you're lucky enough to be able to reclass. So then you reclass to this other MOS, and that one turns out to not be what you thought it was. You're probably not gonna get a third time to be able to reclass. It might happen in the Army, but sometimes it's hard enough just to get to reclass once, might less being allowed to reclass twice. So keep that in mind. Plus there's usually a certain kind of cutoff time frame too. When you get to a certain rank, they're not gonna let you reclass anyway. So don't think that you can go and join the Army at this MOS, spend a little bit of time in that one, change to another MOS, spend a little bit of time in that one, change to another MOS, and just keep on doing that and shuffling through different MOSs to get like the max amount of experience in the Army before you get out and go into the civilian world or retire or whatever. No, you'll be lucky if you're allowed to reclass once, might less twice or 3 times or something ridiculous, crazy like that. So be aware of that, all right? It is not guaranteed that you'll be able to change your MOS or change your job, okay? Try to your best to, get the MOS that you want, right? And you have to make that judgment call of how badly do you want this? How badly do you want to serve in the United States Army if you can't get the job that you want to get? Is there other jobs that maybe would still satisfy you and maybe something you'd be interested in? Then maybe have that as, some backup stuff. But sometimes it just may end up being a situation where that was the MOS you wanted and then it just turned out not to be what you thought it was gonna be. If that's the case and you really want to stay in the Army but change up the jobs, then sure, pursue that opportunity and try for it. But just be aware that that's not a guaranteed solution to your problem. It's not guaranteed that you'll be able to change your MOS. It's possible, but there's a lot of factors that'll have to kind of play in there to, in the end, determine if you're gonna be even allowed to change your MOS in the first place. If you want a little bit of tips as far as how to maybe pick your MOS because you don't even know what the hell to do in the Army just yet, I have a video that I recommend you check out right here that kind of explains that. If you have not seen my latest video upload, I got it available right there. Links in the description, subscribe. We got to get to 100,000 before the end of 2021. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Christopher Chaos. I'll see you next time. See ya.